Join me on a fascinating journey where I show you some of the techniques used in scale aeromodelling. Hello again modellers, and we're back in the workshop and we're still working on the Blackburn Monoplane, my RC open entry for this year's Scale Nationals at the Walsall campus or Wolverhampton University, where there's 2 days of indoor flying. Saturday is the RC Nationals, the Scale RC Nationals, and then on Sunday it's the Scale Free Flight Nationals, Indoor Free Flight Nationals. So 2 full days of some fantastic flying. So if you're free, April 26th, 27th, you want to check that date, then come along, come and say hi, come and see the Blackburn, if it flies, and you'll be more than welcome. Anyway, what we're going to look at today, as you can see, the Blackburn is, I've just put the wings on temporarily. I'm still waiting for this very, very fine tubing, aluminium tubing. I've got some aluminium and some brass tubing coming, same size. So it's 1mm outer diameter. It's a 0.25mm wall and a 0.5mm internal hole size, hole diameter. And I've got some rather cunning plans for how I'm going to do the rigging, because on the rigging of the Blackburn and most aircraft that have rigging wires, you'll have an adjuster, a turnbuckle for the sake of whatever it's called. But basically it's a piece of tubing, usually steel or brass, with 2 threaded eyelets at either end, and the cables are attached to these, and they can be turned to tension or relieve the amount of pull on the flying wires and the rigging wires and the aileron wires, all the wires. So to make those little fittings, and I need about 50, believe it or not, I'm going to use some very thin wall, fine aluminium tube, and then I'm going to put hooks on either end, and you'll see how I'm going to hopefully do the hooks in a future video. When these flipping bits of tubing arrives, we can get on with that. But what I'm going to look at today could be a lot of fun. The Blackburn looks too fresh, it looks too new, it looks too clean. Now there was a time when it was like this, and I've got a lot of photographs that I could use for my competition docs that are like this. So I could get away with it, but I kind of like the look of the Blackburn, and I'll try and add some pictures to the video in a minute. I kind of like the look of the Blackburn with all the castor oil stain on it. As I've said before, it's a total loss oil system, so the castor oil goes into the centre of the crank, onto the main bearing, gets thrown out to the cylinders and gets burnt, or just thrown out the exhaust. So it whirs round and round, in fact that way round and round inside the cowling. It gets sprayed here, and a fine mist of it just gets spread right out and then blown backwards. Poor pilot, poor old Andy, has got to probably swallow half that castor oil. Not very nice. So, but the whole aircraft, as you can see from the pictures, is kind of an orangey colour from all the castor oil. Now I don't think it cleans off that well, so it's bound to stain the aircraft over a period of time. And I've got some lovely shots where the wheels are almost perfectly orange. You know, they're so stained. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use the wheels as my test bit, I think, and that small panel that I covered in cleared oak linen to test the paint. I'm going to use that to try and see if I can figure out how to get that colour right. I've tried using oil pastels, which are like chalk, but that didn't quite really work. One of the pastels I've got, an orange one, if I just gently rub it over the surface of the paintwork, that gives a good effect. So that's quite nice. But I want to try and get the look that the wheels have. So this video is going to be about us playing around with the airbrush and some paints and just see if we can make it look like it's completely caked in castor oil. I've set everything up. I've got one of the wheels. Now here you can see what I've done as far as the weathering goes, using the oil pastels, and it's all right, but it's not getting the effect that we really want. Here's a picture that I'm working to of the Blackburn in its particularly dirty state, and you can see the whole fuselage is orange. But this is the bit I'm really focusing on, is those wheels, and I want to see if I can get this brown, really dark brown staining around the hub, and then a bit more on the spokes and around the edges. What I'll probably use is a piece of paper up against the spoke, just kind of like that, and then spray to get an edge on the spokes, just to see. But the first thing I'm going to concentrate on is trying to get a browner, darker brown centre. And I'm going to do it trying a few little tricks. So I've got some colours here that I think should be useful. We've got a dark red brown, orange, black, but this is the secret ingredient, this one. And this is I didn't even know Tamia did this. This is clear orange. Now, a bit strange, but there we go. It's clear orange. So that's the one that I'm going to try first. I'm not going to do it on the wheel because that's a little bit too precious at the moment. I can always go over it. I've got 7.5 pots of this clear doped linen colour, so I can paint them over again. The covers are only held on with Yoo-Hoo Pour, so I can just soften the edge and they'll come off again if I wanted to paint them off the wheel, but it doesn't matter. The black's easily done with a brush and the covers can come off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play around with this piece of tissued framework that I did as a test. And it's got, you can see I've been experimenting with the, with an acrylic pastels, with oil pastels, with various pastels, and they're kind of okay. This orangey colour works reasonably well. But I'm not totally happy. So let's have a go with some of these paints. And all I'm going to do is put it straight into the airbrush, just a drip in the brush, a drip of thinners just to soften it, and then I'll have a play and see what we can do. As you know, a drip actually goes quite a long way in a little airbrush. The pressure's set to 15 psi, which should be more than enough. So first of all, I'm going to try. No, I'm going to go for this really neat clear orange first. Let's see what happens. So we'll put a healthy drip in the gun. A couple of drips. There we go. That's more than enough. And then maybe just a drip or two drips in there. Just shake it about a bit, and then we'll see what we get. Ooh, that's nice. You hold it in one place for a long time, does it get darker? Not sure if it does, or whether it just saturates the material. So what do you think? I think we're getting a pretty good approximation to that orange. The centre area, let's try it on the clear dope linen and see what we get. So that looks pretty nice. Let's find a little something. Let's try just something like this on the edge. Let's try it on the other side. On the edge of one of these stringers, just to see how that looks. That's a nice effect. Let's do it somewhere where there hasn't been some already. Do it on this edge here. What do you think to that? That's this bit down here. That looks like it's going to be it. Paul Rich put me onto this clear orange. I didn't even know there was such a thing. So that's looking really good. I'm really pleased with that. Yeah, well, I'm liking that. Liking that a lot. Let's try putting some brown around the centre of the hub, or we'll take an area of this and just do a circle in brown, and see if that can make this darker area that we need. Just going to clean the brush out with that orange. All I've done is a few drips of thinners straight into the airbrush just to clear it out. I've got one of these jars where it's a stand as well as a jar into which you can spray, and it just captures all of the paint that's in the gun. Bear with me a second, I've just gone for some more Q-tips. I get through hundreds of these Q-tips, but they're nice and cheap. I'll just use that to just scrape the inside of the pot just to keep it clean-ish. Don't want it to dry on there. Right, so all I'm going to do is a little bit of brown, just a drip, 2 drips. Okay, and then again, a few drips of thinners, two drips. Give it a little bit of a shake. Hopefully you can see this. That's a bit of the orange, let's get rid of that. There we go, there's the brown. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just do a central area of brown. Quite intense in the middle and round the outside like that. Back to the middle, get it nice and intense. So there you see what we've got. And I actually think this is going to work, but let's keep testing. Clean the gun out again. This is why we're just using a drip, so that we can just keep trying it out. Oh, that clear orange that has just leaked onto the side of the gun, onto the side of the airbrush is lovely. It looks just like oil. I can see us using that on the end of a brush and dribbling it along the cowling and stuff like that. So well, that looks like it's going to be very useful. Thank you, Paul. Good tip. Well, that's a Q-tip gone. I'm going to go back to the clear orange again. 1 drip, that's all we need. 1 drip. That's in the gun now, so we just make sure that comes out. Get rid of the brown. And there we go, we're on to the orange now. So this section here, we're going to try and just go over it with orange. What do you reckon of that? I think that's, oops, knocking it for 6. Put the gun in there. I think that's pretty good. That brown could actually be a bit darker. I don't know whether we can put a hint of black into it or whether we'll ruin it. Let's try a hint of black. Drip of brown. 2 drips of brown. Let's put 2 drips of brown in, because it's going to be quite hard to put such a small amount of black in. There we go, a tiny little dollop of black. Then we'll put 2 or 3 drops of thinners in there. It's going to be quite difficult to mix that. I don't think that black's gone in very well. Oh, it might have done. So let's see what we get. We're hoping to get that's the brown we had before, which I hope you can see. So alongside it, so we've still got the brown. I'm just hoping it's going to get darker in a second. Not really getting darker, is it? I don't think the black's really kicking in. You can see how much paint you get in just a drip. Still doesn't look any darker to me. Ah, now we're getting a little bit of black. So that's a blacker brown than we had. Oh, it's difficult to tell, isn't it? Anyway, that's run out, so let's clean all that out. And start again, because that's not really worked the way we want. But that's looking very promising. I'm really liking the look of this. And what I might do with this clear orange, which has just struck me as possibly a nice effect, is something we'll try in a minute. Now, how are we going to do this? Need a touch of, I need to get some brown. This pot, it looks like it's got black in it, but it hasn't. There's a fair bit of brown in there, 4 or 5 dips of brown. Then we'll put 1 drop of black there. Now, I need another stirrer. And then I'm just going to stir that brown and that black together. Oh, that's interesting. Hasn't made it much. Oh, it has. Didn't look like it was going to make it much blacker. It hasn't darkened it as much as I thought it would. Has a little bit. Let's add another drop of black. There we go. That's quite a lot darker now. It's not black though. Bit of thinners in there. Just to make it sprayable. The Tamiya paint is usually sprayable straight out of the pot, but I like it to be just a little bit thinner, especially for what I'm doing here, which is where I want to just put a dusting on, very light amount. So we'll put some drips of that straight in the brush, but I'll keep the rest of it in this pot. Now let's see what that does. See, that's a darker, that's almost black now, which is probably going to be good. So we'll start again. We'll do another circle down here. Like that. The beauty of these harder and Steen and harder airbrushes is you get such a really fine mix, and it's really is a mist that goes out there. You shouldn't get any spattering or anything, and that's what you're paying for, the quality of the airbrush. So let's get rid of that, what's left in there. Just rinse it all out again. You get through quite a bit of thinners in this game. Well, quite a bit. It's nothing really. A couple of pounds for, well, a few pounds for the X20 thinners, a bigger bottle like that. But it's well worth it. The proper Tamiya thinners definitely thins the paint really nicely. Right, so now we're going to go back to the clear orange. And I've put 2 drips in there and probably 1 drip of thinners. So it's a fraction of paint going into that pot. Then we get back to our sample again, and I want to make it about the size of the wheel this time. So again, we'll start in the middle and we'll go round and around. And if you move further away, you can sort of alter it a bit. Let's go in a bit closer, because the middle's a little bit dark and not very orange. Let's see if we can just lift that darkness to be a bit more orangey. There we go. Now, just to really give it a try, I'm just going to try and add a line. I don't think paint's coming out there. There we go. I'm not sure if that's very clear to see. But you actually, yes, I can see it anyway. Getting lines as if it's the spokes. Anyway, I think that's the sort of effect we want, and I'm really quite pleased with how that looks. I think the dark colour on first. I'm going to go straight to the wheel. Let's go for it. This is the back of the wheel, so again, it doesn't really matter too much. I just mounted it on this piece of carbon to give me a sort of an axle to spin it on. And we'll come out a little bit. Oops. A bit blotchy in the middle there, but let's see how it goes. And we go back to our nice clear orange. 2 or 3 drips in there. 3 drips of thinners. There's our orangey colour. Now I'm going to try and pick out the spokes. This might not work. Not sure that's working particularly well. Less is more. There's a bit over there that's not very well defined. Let's try and do that bit a little bit better. That's nice. I've got a little bit of a spatter pattern kicking in there. Probably because I'm putting it on so lightly, it's drying out a little bit. There you go. I think that it's looking like that. Maybe a little bit more around the edges. I like that. I'm really happy with that. So what I'm going to do, I'll do the other side of the wheel and we'll see if we can replicate that over all 4 wheel surfaces. But there you go, that's kind of what I'm playing around at. I didn't actually use the orange, the solid orange, which I thought maybe I could just dust it on the top there, but this clear orange is I think you'll agree, pretty close. I think it could be heavier, I could put a bit more on. But I think I really like that. I think that's good. And then what we'll do is a very lighter variation of this and maybe just dust some of this orange on the fuselage. And the other trick I wanted to try, in fact we can try that while you're online. This should work. So I'm going to take some of the clear and I'm just going to drip some. In fact, I'm going to put a glove on first. So what I'm going to do is put some of this clear on a toothbrush, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is flick it, and what I want to try and see is if we can get a spray effect. Do you see what's happening? I quite like that. I don't know what you what you think and whether or not you can see it, but I'm thinking of this on the leading edge of the wing in near the front. Actually, that might be a better way of doing it. Yes. Oops. So if you can see that, I'm just flicking it, scraping the brush. Now the beauty of this Tamiya acrylic is it's water soluble. So I think if we can spray some of this on the lower part of the fuselage, the leading edge of the wings, and maybe just all over the slipstream, maybe the leading edges of the tailplanes, and the uprights of the fin and the rudder, well, the fin and the tailplane, I think that'll have a nice effect. So that's the other thing I'm going to try and do. Okay, so I think you've seen the techniques. Now I'm going to go and try them on the model. I may as well do the other wheel while I'm working on this. There we go. I think that'll do us. Now we'll clean that out. That's probably all of the dark colour that we need to splodge in there now. The one thing that isn't really coming out very well is the spoke, laying the piece of paper down and trying to get a shadow or a highlight. That's not really worked very well. Not to worry. Right, now we're going to put some of the clear orange in here and have a go with that. 1, 2, 3, 4. So healthy dollop. Managed to get some on the outside. Look at that colour, isn't that lovely? That to me looks like castor oil. Oh, perfect. So there's the orange. We may as well do the wheels on the shaft for now. What is also nice about this clear, it's actually gloss as well. So it will add a little bit of a sheen to it, hopefully. It's actually coming out very light. You can see you don't actually have to get too close. All I'm doing is working outwards from the centre as I turn it. You can barely see where the paint's going. And to the other side. Draw back with the way I made the wheels, which I'll explain, either later or in another video, probably another video, is that the carbon rod inside the wheel hub doesn't actually come all the way to the outside. But I'll explain that at another day, and I'll show you how I have attached the wheels. I'm struggling to find the carbon rod, it's buried inside the wheel. I'm able to circle the carbon rod, but I can't actually get the wheel to go in it. Do you know what? I'm just going to hold it. There we go. What a lovely effect. Love that. Love it. Holding it's probably easier. Typical, I was just about run out, just as it was finalising. 1, 2, that should do us. 2 and 2, 50-50. There we go, that's the exact effect that I really want. Really pleased with that. Lovely. Let's just add a little bit more to it. Just ran out. Another drip. Just want a fraction more on there. 1, 2. Too thin. That's better. Not that one. That one. There we go. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Clean the gun out and have a think about what we're going to do next. The wheels can't go on yet until all the rigging is done around the undercarriage, and there are loads of rigging wires on the undercarriage, and I can't do those until that tubing arrives, so then I can make the turnbuckles. Because as I said, every wire, every rigging wire has a turnbuckle. Only the one, but I have to make all the turnbuckles. So what I think I'll probably do is make half a dozen turnbuckles, and then we'll do some rigging, see how it looks and see if it works. And if it works, then I'll sit here in front of the telly making more turnbuckles. That's a lovely colour. Okay, so I thought I'd just show you how the wheels are retained while I've got the axle apart and everything else. We'll ignore that end because that's all done. So on this end, I've simply got on the whole thing, it's a piano wire axle with a carbon rod that just spins freely on it. Then there's a couple of little tiny alum tube spacers, and these are to make sure the wheel don't rub against the bungee cords and the rest of it. So then we just put a wheel on. Now, the wheels, if you remember when I made them, when I showed you them, I'd actually put a carbon rod in that came all the way out from the back plate to the front, and I used it to align the cones. I actually cut that carbon rod flush with the good side, you know, front side of the wheel, flush. And then when you put the wheel onto the axle, I then used a piece of carbon tube and slid it in the hole over the axle, and then I put the paper on top, and I used that piece of carbon rod to align the paper. Once the paper was aligned and centered, I could then remove the carbon rod because it was only a guide. And what that means is the piano wire actually ends about 5 millimeters further in, and you can't see the end, so you can't put a collet on it or anything like that to lock it. So what you do to hold the wheel on is there's a piece of alley tube about, I don't know, 10 mil long, about a centimetre long. Now I've added some little bits of, I've added a hole and some bits of piano wire to try and make it look like there's a cotter pin or something like that in there, but it doesn't look too right. But anyway, what you do is you put some Yoo-hoo pour on this, a good dollop, and you make sure it goes right inside the tube. And then all you do is you put the tube in the hole, find the piece of piano wire, which is just under the surface there, and you push, if you can find it. I'm struggling to find it. Don't know why I'm struggling to find it. Oop. Oh no, that's a mistake. Hope it comes out of the wheel. If it doesn't, we're in deep doo-doo. Right, I'm going to pause the video while I try and recover this, because that's not good. And it's not coming out. Oh dear. Oh dear. Phew. Retrieved. Blimey. All just to show you how this works. Oh, dearie me. Right. What can actually happen is you can slide the axle along a little bit further because the other wheel's not centered now. We'll see if the piano wire will actually protrude from the other end. That'll make this next bit a lot easier. It does, in fact. So all you do, slide that tube covered in Yoo-hoo pour, or it's got Yoo-hoo pour inside it, slide it over the end and push it all the way in, and there, that piece of alloy tube is glued to the piano wire, but the carbon bearing inside the wheel is still free to turn, and that retains the wheel and it can't move. So if you wanted to take the wheel off at any point, all you do is you put some CA activator or some Ronseal lighter fluid or something like that just in the end, and it'll soften the glue, the Yoo-hoo pour, and you can just pull that pin out or pull that tube out, and then the wheels are removable. Fairly simple way of doing it, but it's very I think quite cunning. But there we go. Don't drop your tube inside the axle, inside the wheel. There we go. Anyway, that's what I wanted to show you. That's what I'm going to be doing on the rest of the model, but I just wanted to give you an idea of how the weathering was going to be done. There isn't a lot of other weathering that I want to do on this model, as far as dirt, mud, that sort of stuff, because it is kept very clean. But the one thing they can't really do is get rid of all the castor oil staining that is on the model. So, so that's what I'm going to try and replicate. Okay, hope you've enjoyed that little insight into creating the castor oil staining on the clear doped linen. If you've enjoyed the video, click like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.